Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
Court officer, we're in open session, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Mr. Witness, before the break, you were telling us about when you were repairing your fence in your garden and somebody spoke to you. Do you remember that? Do you remember telling us that?
Ndio.
The person that's...
Yes.
The person that spoke to you, do you see their name on the list in front of you?
Ndio.
Answer yes.
Could you tell us which number that person appears at?
Namba ya pili.
Answer. It's number 2.
And could you tell us exactly what this person at number 2, what he said to you?
1 second. I want to go into private session for that answer.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur.
Officer, we're in public session, Your Honor.
And, Mr. Witness, do you know what ethnicity this person 2 is?
Huwa Mkalenjin.
Answer. He's a Kalenjin.
And did you take these words seriously?
Angu mimi sikuchukulia.
Answer. No, I didn't take it seriously.
Did you stay in location 1?
Ndio, nilibaki hapo hapo.
Answer, yes. I stayed there.
You've been telling us about the first day after the election. Is that correct?
Sikumbuki.
Answer, I don't remember.
Mr. Moffat, are you saying that the conversation happened the first day after the election?
Yes, Your Honor, but I'll rephrase the question. The conversation that you had with person number 2, this took place the first day after the election. Is that correct?
Ndio, ilikuwa baada ya uchaguzi.
Answer, yes. It was after the election.
The second day after the election, did you find out what the results were?
Hold off on the question. We need to establish what the witness is saying in terms of the possibility of precision of when the conversation happened, because the answer he gave does not crystallize that impression that it was on the first day after the election.
Indeed, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, just asking you again, the conversation that you had with person number 2, how many days after the election did this take place?
Ilikuwa siku.
Answer, it was right before the election results were published.
But do you remember how many days after the date that you voted?
Ilikuwa siku ya pili baada ya kupiga kura.
Answer, it was 2 days after we had voted.
When did the election votes start to be known in location 1? The election results, rather. When did the election results start to become known in location 1?
Ilikuwa siku ya pili.
Answer. It was the second day after the elections.
And did you get to know which of the candidates were in the lead?
We here are talking about election results. Can you be precise as to which post we're talking about? Because I understand it was a multiple post-election, so to speak.
I'll phrase the question differently. Do you know who the presidential candidates were in the elections in 2007?
Ningependa arejelee hilo swali tena.
Answer. I would like for you to repeat that question, please.
Right. At this stage, let me do this. Hold that question, counsel. Witness, do you still wish to proceed with the interpretation, or would you rather speak, or rather, would you rather take the questions in English?
Tokana na tafsiri, ningependa niulizwe maswali kwa Kiingereza. Tafsiri imekuwa ngumu.
Answer. It would be better if the question is put to me in English because I have trouble understanding the interpretation.
As we've heard before that there are different dialects to Swahili, and that may be the problem. We don't know, but Mr. Mofade, it looks like we have to switch to English. While you are already speaking English, the witness will have to listen to your questions in English. And so would you also prefer to answer in English or Swahili? Your own answers, that is.
Ningependa tu kujibu kwa Kiingereza.
Answer. I would like to respond in English.
All right, we will proceed in that way. But something we need to watch out for, please, and I know I did not mention it when I was advising you initially when you came. Try not to overlap with the person asking you questions. By overlap, I mean you need to observe a pause between him completing his question and then you beginning to answer. We call it the 5-second rule, but anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds should do, as long as you observe a pause. So do not start answering immediately. Just observe a little pause and then begin your answer in English.
Your Honor, I wonder whether the witness is able to hear, because he's got his earphones and it may be...
Yes, we need to switch channels for him to the floor channel, I believe. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. But please observe the pause. That's what I was saying. Just the exchange we had now demonstrates what I'm talking about. When I said, can you hear me now? You immediately said, yes, you could hear me. We would like a small pause. 5 seconds would be a good pause to observe. But anywhere from 3 seconds to 5 seconds should do. But just don't start answering immediately. Upon completion of the question, a little pause, and then you answer. All right?
Yes.
That's good.
And, Mr. Witness, my earlier question was, do you know who the presidential candidates were for the elections in 2007?
Can recall two, but I can't remember the others.
Do you know the names of the two you recall? Could you mention them?
There was Mr. Honorable Mike Kibaki and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga.
And the second day after the elections.
Mr. President, I think there is a problem with the page 61, line 3. The name of one of the candidates, I think, is wrong.
I believe it's being corrected at line 4, but I think it's obvious it was Mwai Kibaki, and it's corrected at line 4.
Yes, see that.
Mr. Witness, by the second day of the elections, were there any indications of who of these candidates was leading in the elections?
Yes, first was Mr. Mike Kibaki, who was leading. Then, secondly, Mr. Raila was leading.
And by the third day, was this the same, or was there a different ranking in who was leading?
Yes, there was a difference. By that time, Mr. Kibaki was the one leading.
And in location 1, what was the reaction of the ODM supporters and the Kalenjin to this trend of election feedback?
Can you rephrase?
What was the reaction of the ODM supporters and the Kalenjin in location 1 when they heard this news?
They refused the results and they were very angry.
How did they react when they were angry?
They said that it couldn't be like that because Mr. Raila was the one who was leading. They started shouting, running, and saying they can't accept the results.
And did you see this yourself?
Yes, I saw.
I would like to ask you now about the announcement of the final presidential election results. Do you understand that?
Pardon your question?
Why don't you ask the question right away, Counsel?
Do you remember the day that the presidential election results were announced?
Yes, it was around 6 p.m.
And did you hear that announcement yourself?
Yes, I heard the results on radio.
You said it was 6 p.m. Do you remember what date it was?
I'm not sure of the date.
But did you hear who was announced as the winner, the presidential candidate winner?
Yes, Mr. Mike Kibaki.
And again, what was the reaction of the ODM supporters and the Kalenjin in location 1 when this result was announced?
They said the results were not correct, and they start shouting, running from location 2 towards location 1, shouting and saying the results cannot be that. That difference is big.
And where were you when this shouting and running was taking place?
I was in location 1.
And how could you tell that these persons were ODM supporters and Kalenjin?
Due to the results, they said that the result cannot be that. And the people we knew,
when you say these were the people we knew, were you able to recognize some of these people?
yes, I do.
When you witnessed this shouting and running by the Kalenjin, what did you do?
At that moment, when they were coming from location 2 towards location 1, shouting, disagreeing with the results, they went up. That's the place they started burning houses. At that time is when we went there to help the Kikuyu members who were there.
Okay, firstly, do you know the number of these Kalenjin that you say went up and started burning houses?
Your Honour, if I may just clarify, my learned friend has been asking the witness questions in relation to ODM supporters and Kalenjin. And all of a sudden now we are just focusing only on Kalenjin. So if perhaps you can have more clarity on whether this is one and the same group or ODM supporters includes other tribes. Just some more clarity.
I'll clarify it with witnesses. This group that you saw running and shouting, were they only ODM supporters or only Kalenjin, or were they Kalenjin ODM supporters?
These were Kalenjin's ODM supporters.
Do we mean Kalenjins who were ODM supporters?
Yes, my honor.
And how could you tell that they were Kalenjin?
These were the people we used to live with them. We knew them very well.
And then my earlier question was, can you estimate a number of this group that you said went up and started burning houses?
There were about 30 to 40.
And can you describe what this group looked like? What were they wearing, for instance?
That day they had only ordinary clothes.
Do you know if they were carrying anything?
When they started burning houses, they had bows and arrows.
And you know, just for the transcript, I think line 21, I believe what I heard anyway was that day they had only ordinary clothes.
That's correct.
Now, you've told us that you recognized some of this group. They were your neighbors. Just answer yes or no, please. Do you know the names of any of those that you recognized?
Yes.
Now, please take a look at the list in front of you. Do the names of any of these persons appear on that list?
Yes, please.
Could you tell us which numbers they appear at, or number?
Number 2 and number 3.
And were any of number 2 or number 3 your neighbors?
Yes, both were my neighbors.
And although it may be obvious, but do you know the ethnicity of number 3? I believe you've given us the ethnicity of number 2 already.
Yes, he's a Kalenjin.
It's almost like they might as well round up saying number 2 as well.
And is it correct that number 2 is also a Kalenjin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you said earlier that some of the Kikuyu went to help. Firstly, about how many Kikuyu went to help when this was going on?
Yes, there were about 100.
And where were you at this time when the group went to help?
Yes, I was among them.
So please tell us what you and the remainder of this group, what did you do to help the situation?
When we were there, we tried to warn them not to burn the houses because we knew them. We were calling them by names. And we were trying to help the Kikuyu women and children going down.
When you tried to warn them not to burn the houses, did they listen to you?
No, they didn't.
You've told us that the 30 or 40 Kalenjin, they had bows and arrows. Did your group of 100 or so, did you have any weapons?
No, we didn't.
And did you manage to help the women and children that you had gone to help?
Yes, a family of 5 slept at my house that night.
Do you know how this family of 5 got to your house?
Yes, because we were the one who were helping them to move from where the houses were being burned.
And just to clarify, you said a family of 5. Is this one family with 5 members of the family, or is it something different?
This was a family, a mother and his children, 5 families.
Are you saying there were 5 different families comprising of mother and children?
Yes, Your Honor.
You mean mothers and children?
Indeed, mothers and children, Your Honor.
Is that what you were saying, witness? There were several mothers, 5 mothers at least, in the family, in the group that were at your house.
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you know what happened to the houses of these 5 families?
Yes.
Please tell us.
The houses were burnt completely.
And do you know the ethnicity of these 5 families that spent the night at your house?
Yes, all were Kikuyus.
And do you know how many houses were burnt in location 1 on that particular day?
Yes, there were about 20 houses.
And do you know the ethnicity of those who owned those 20 houses?
Yes, were Kikuyus.
Mr. President, can we go into private session for just 1 minute? I have 1 or 2 questions.
Private session.
Nous sommes en audience publique.
Court officer, we're now in public session, Your Honour.
Thank you.
You've told us that there were houses being burnt. Do you know how these houses were set alight?
Yes. At that moment, the Kalenji boys were running. They were throwing something, an object that you could not see because it was dark. They were throwing on the house, and then the house get in a frame.
Now, I would like to ask you about the following day. You said these 5 families spent the night at your house. Did you also spend the night at your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you tell us what happened the following day?
The following day, at lunch time, the Kalenjin boys were on top of the hill singing song. The time they were singing song, the number of the Kalenjin boys was increasing. The Kalenjin was increasing. The more they sing, the more the number is increasing.
You say Kalenjin boys. Firstly, can you help us? What do you mean by boys? Were they young boys or were they grown men?
Pardon for that. The Kalenjins, men and boys, were the one who were increasing.
And you said they were increasing. Do you know, can you give an estimate of what number there were on this hill?
You could not say the exact number, but the numbers were increasing in thousands.
And then you've said that they were singing. Do you know what they were singing?
The song they were singing, they usually sing the song during the circumcision.
And how do you know this? Have you heard the song before yourself?
Yes, yes. They used to practice the exercise just near area 1. Now we used to know because you could see them singing, having their ceremony. You could hear the song.
And just to clarify, Do you speak or understand Kalenjin yourself?
Yes, I can distinguish Kalenjin from other tribes, but I don't know their language. I don't know how to speak the language.
You don't know how to speak it, but do you understand it either?
Yes, I can say this is a Kalenjin language.
I'm just going to press you a bit further. If somebody says something to you in Kalenjin, will you understand what that person is saying?
No, Your Honor.
You've talked about the Kalenjin circumcision. Do you know when this circumcision ceremony normally takes place?
Yes, during the December season.
And you've also told us how there was singing on this particular day, and the numbers were increasing. Do you know if these Kalenjin boys and men were coming from within location 1 or from other places?
No, they were coming from other places.
How do you know that?
Most of them who live there, we know them, but those who were coming were new to us.
So this group of 1,000 or so Kalenjin, what did they do once they were on that hill?
At that time, when they were singing, they were coming down the hill, burning houses, going up, coming down like ants, burning houses and going back.
Mr. Mofade, just so you watch it, the number. I'm not sure the witness said the group was 1,000 or so. So if you want to make anything of the number, you need to clarify it.
Indeed, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, remember I asked you earlier if you could estimate the number of Kalenjin boys and men that's grouped on this hill. What is your estimate of the number?
They were in thousands. Around 1,000 and above, but I'm not sure of.
And Mr. President, it's just a clarification for the transcript at line 2 of the current page, page 76. I believe the witness said during the December season.
Is there any dispute there? Okay. Mr. Khan says no dispute.
And did you say, Mr. Witness, that there were burning houses going up, coming down like ants, burning houses and going back up? Is that what you said?
Yes, Your Honor.
And where were you at this time, you personally?
I was down the hill where we could see them what we were doing.
The witness said where I could see them, what they were doing.
Mr. President, that's what I heard as well. And you said you were down the hill. Do you mean at the bottom of the hill?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this the same hill where the thousands of Kalenjin boys and men had converged?
Yes, Your Honor.
And were you alone at the bottom of the hill?
No, Your Honor.
Please don't give us names, but how many people were with you?
I can't tell the number, but we were more.
Can you help in terms of tens, hundreds, or thousands?
We were in hundreds.
Again, Ms. Ramofa, the pinpoint.
Do you know how many hundreds you might have been? Was it 100, over 100? I know it might be difficult to estimate, but please try.
Can confirm, Your Honor.
Do you know the ethnicity of the group you were part of?
Yes.
What ethnic group did your group belong to?
Kikuyu.
And please, can you describe your group? Was it men? Was it men, women, or children? Please help us.
Yes, we were Kikuyu men.
Now, I want to go back to the group of 1,000 or more Kalenjin men that were on top of the hill. Do you know if they were carrying any arms?
Yes, they had bows and arrows.
What time of the day was this event taking place?
It was during lunch time.
And you've already told us that you could see them from where you were. Could you identify any of the group that was up there? Please just answer yes or no.
Yes, I could identify them.
And please take a look at the list in front of you. Do you see the names of any of the persons you could identify on that list?
Yes, Your Honor.
Could you tell us the numbers of the persons you identified?
Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4 and number 5.
So the first 5 on that list were amongst this group. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And from where you were at the bottom of the hill, could you see if this group had any leader or leaders?
Yes, Your Honor.
And could you see who those leaders were?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you able to recognize any of them?
Yes, Your Honor.
Again, take a look at the list in front of you. Do you recognize any of the names on that list as being amongst the leaders of this group?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please tell us which one or which ones.
Number 1, number 4, and number 5.
Mr. President, might we go into private session, probably for 5 to 10 minutes?
Essentially until the end of the day.
It might just take us there. I might be able to do it sooner.
All right. We go to private session.